What am I doing flipping that? Ready? All right. I'd like to call the August meeting of the Historic Preservation Commission to order. Paula, would you call the roll?
Alan Brown.
Present.
Neela Crank-Clements.
Present.
Suzanne Broadbent. Present. Heather Clemmer.
Present.
Greg Eddington. George Massey.
Present.
Mary Jo Meacham.
Present.
Klaus Ryman Phillip.
Present.
Ann Zacharitz. You have a quorum.
Okay, thank you, Paul. I'd like to go over the meeting procedure that's on the back of the first page of your agenda. The chairman will announce each case and ask interested parties to indicate their presence by raising their hand. Commissioners will discuss details of the case, calling on staff for details. Following this discussion, commissioners may choose to ask questions of the parties present. Interested persons may speak to support or protest the application. The applicant will be entitled to one brief rebuttal. Interaction between applicant and protestants on the floor is not permitted. Persons speaking are asked to approach the center podium one at a time to introduce themselves by name and address, and if you'd sign in, please, and to present their position as succinctly as possible. The Commission asks each speaker to limit his or her remarks to no more than 5 minutes. Following the public hearing on an application, the Commission will take one of the following actions. 1, approve the certificate of appropriateness. 2, continue the proposal. 3, deny the proposal with prejudice, which means the application may not be resubmitted for at least 1 year unless the Commission determines that circumstances have changed. And 4, deny the proposal without prejudice, which means the applicant may reapply at any time. When an application has been approved and after a 10-day protest period has expired, the Historic Preservation Officer will mail the CA to the applicant. City construction permits cannot be issued until the CA has been issued. And contact HP staff for final design review inspections or to withdraw items that will not be completed. And finally, any person aggrieved by any decision granting or denying a CA may appeal to the Oklahoma City Board of Adjustment. All appeals shall be made within 10 days of the Commission decision by filing a written notice of appeal with the clerk of the BOA. Okay. Let's go on to item 2 then. Katie?
The only item we had to announce is that we have an upcoming hands-on wood window repair workshop, September 15th and 16th. It is actually already sold out, so I'm sorry to be announcing it after the fact, sort of. But if people are interested, by all means, they'll contact us. We'll keep a waiting list and kind of keep tabs on the possibility of scheduling another one sometime soon.
Okay, thank you. Okay, let's go on to 3, acceptance of minutes of previous meeting. Does anybody have any comments on the minutes or like to make a motion?
I'll move approval.
Second.
Been moved by Suzanne Broadbent and seconded by Heather Clemmer. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the minutes are approved. On to the code enforcement report. Anybody from the code enforcement department here? No? Any comments?
Just to remind everyone that if you see an item on here that does have a citation number listed, that means it has progressed from a notice of violation to an actual citation. You can get more information about those or about anything else in the report from the Action Center or from Development Services staff, or just contact HP staff for more information.
Any comments on the report? Okay, then we'll go on to continuance announcements and requests. None.
Yep, no new requests.
In public hearings? Consent docket.
2 items on the consent docket.
Okay. Anybody like to discuss those individually, any of them? Or a motion to approve the consent docket?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent docket.
Second?
Second.
It's been moved by Klaus Ryman Phillip and seconded by Neela Crank-Clement. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the consent docket is approved. If you are on the consent docket, you can leave. You're approved. Next.
HPCA 17-00211 has been withdrawn, So we will see that applicant in the future with a new proposal, but
Okay.
that case has been withdrawn.
All right.
On to number 2, HPCA 18-00036 at 115 East Reno Avenue, historic landmark, individual property, Ward 7. Consideration of possible action on application of John Perro, 2424 Investments by Kevin McCracken of Whiskey Chicks for certificate of appropriateness to 1, install sign faces elective, 2, paint sign on Reno facade elective, 3, cover windows with signs required, 4, install neon sign in transom required, 5, install neon lights on parapet required, 6, install chandelier in entryway required, 7, cover transom and fire exit required, and 8, replace scuppers and downspouts required.
Okay, is the applicant present? Yes. Okay. If you want to step forward and introduce yourself and sign in.
Hello, my name is Kevin McCracken.
Okay. So this is a historic landmark. That's a little different than our normal.
Yes, so this was designated as a historic landmark, I believe in the 1980s, actually. You could probably put that on here, double check the 1982, and it's also within the Bricktown Design District. So the applicant came in to apply for some of the signage, and we kind of identified some other work that had been ongoing in the last couple of years that we wanted to get addressed as well, because some of those things hadn't gone through the review process. So that's what you have before you.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right.
I just want to make sure that I'm clear what I need to do at this point. From my understanding of reading documentation is to remove the cling-ons that are on the windows. And are we supposed to remove the neon?
So that'll be for the commission to
Oh, so there's no decision
decide
at this point.
and vote on
Okay.
in the meeting.
All right.
But the staff is recommending that.
And in the neon, are you talking about the sign above the door that says Whiskey Chicks?
I'm sorry, ma'am?
The neon, are you referring to the Whiskey Chicks words above the front door?
Yeah, that's a neon
Okay.
sign on the inside.
That's on the inside, okay.
Yeah.
There's neon on the, there's already been neon applied on the
The
parapet.
neon on the border of the building, it's like
at
an
the
amber
top.
color.
Staff's recommending approval of that, the unique circumstance.
It's my understanding staff is recommending the neon that's inside the
Transom.
inside the entryway, but not recommending the neon that's on the parapet.
Correct.
Is that correct?
Yeah, item
Just to
5.
clear that up.
Yeah, they're recommending all of 3 and 5. The windows, covering up the windows, signs, and the parapet.
So it's a little confusing. It appears that staff is saying that some things are recommended, but only if other things are not done, it would equal out the signage requirements. Is that?
So there were kind of two elements of the signage. One is which signage was more appropriate to the building, and then that we were also trying to address the issue of the fact that there are limitations on how many square feet of signage you can have. And we had talked with the applicant about possibly needing to remove some signage so that you would be within that square footage, and that probably the window signage would be the most appropriate and probably the easiest to
Okay.
remove.
I apologize, I am so deaf.
Oh, that's okay.
I want to hear you,
I know
Catherine.
it can be difficult to hear in here.
One of the recommendations is that it appears to be is that if you do some things, then if you did everything, you would be over your allowance of square footage. So something needs to be deleted. So I think staff was suggesting perhaps eliminating the signage that was going to be on the windows.
Yes.
Did you understand that, and
I
are you in
agree.
agreement
Yes,
with
that's
that
no
one?
problem.
Okay.
The signage on the window, they're peel-offs, so does that make a difference? Like,
Temporary?
yes.
As far as the sign code, a sign is a sign, whether it's easily removable or not. So if you're covering up a window with signage, with advertising, that's considered a sign.
So we can clear, we don't really understand, is it supposed to be just a smaller portion that will cover up the window, or can we not have anything at all on the window?
So we'd have to calculate if you could have still some on the window and be within the square footage allowance. But in addition to that, the guidelines for a historic landmark say that you should not obscure architectural features of the building, which would generally be interpreted to mean you shouldn't have signs covering or obscuring windows. A window should be a window, not a
Sign.
frame for a sign.
So just remove the Klingons. If we remove the Klingons, we're at the 15%, from what I
Yeah,
understand.
I think you're within the allowance.
We'll just take care of it today.
Katie, could you explain to me, I'm not sure about approval of a variance is not recommended for that signage exceeding limitations?
Sure. So if the commission felt like all the signage that's there really should be there and it's appropriate and we think that's the correct design and we want to approve it, they're still over the limit, so they would still have to have a variance. So if the commission wanted to approve all the signage that's there, then they would have to turn around and apply to the Board of Adjustment for a variance in order to be able to get a sign permit.
So really, we should be reviewing for historic preservation issues, not necessarily the sign ordinance, because somebody else does that, right?
Somebody else does do that,
Yeah.
but it helps to
No.
know if they're going to need a variance for
Right.
something so that we can comment on that as well.
Yeah. So your recommendation would keep them within the
Yep.
limit? Yep. Are you fine with her recommendation? Are you okay with the recommendation of staff? Have you read it?
Yeah, from what I'm understanding, is just the removal of the Klingons is going to put me, and now I did propose, where we had to paint over the Wells Fargo, where it said Wells Fargo and Company, that black banner is still up there, and I did propose that I went with the same kind of font that was there prior, like all of Bricktown, and we were going to do live music and kitchen. So I'm not sure if that got reviewed.
That was included within the calculation of all the signage and is, let's see, where is that listed? Yep, that is item 2, paint sign on Reno facade. So that was recommended for approval.
Okay, great. Okay, so, and then the neon stripes above, we are going to be removing those. Is that correct?
Okay.
I think that's it.
Okay, then, the transom and the replacing the scuppers?
Those are both items that appear to have happened quite some time ago. We just kind of wanted to capture the evolution of the building, that door has clearly evolved over time. You can see in some of the older photos that it was a wood door with with a glass transom above.
Oh, okay, I see.
And now is kind of just a slab door, and that transom has been covered over.
How do we address that as far as the motion?
So, it could either be something that, talk about whether that's something that could be reversed, or if it's approved with the unique circumstance that it is reversible, and that those are kind of temporary, or not temporary, but replaceable features for
Right.
the kind of modern use of the structure.
But I don't think we would have approved the covering of that transom if he was coming today to ask for permission to do that. And I see that you've recommended a continuance on that.
Where are the scuppers? Right behind the downspout, or?
What was, if I could see the picture real, okay, and I had nothing to do with it. The owner did put them on there. The scuppers, the flow of the water, the flow of the water comes south, and the scuppers were eaten up so bad that it was draining back into the restaurant itself on both ends. So basically the owner got recommended by the roofing company that we need to replace those scuppers. I might have pictures of what they used to look like. If I remember, they're a little more square than that, but I think that he tried to do it as close as what he could get it to what was original.
Here's a picture.
So it's that black, in this picture we're looking at now, above your sign, right above the downspout? That big thing, that is what you're calling a scupper? It's not.
Little box.
Yes, sir.
That box is a
The
scupper.
box, and then actual, the I don't know what you would call that, the downspout.
Downspout.
That was
Yeah.
all replaced.
That's actually not, the scupper goes through the wall, that's part of it.
Yes, it actually goes from the roof and then kind of falls in. But we had a lot of problems on the east one. I mean, it filled the stage one night when we had a heavy rainstorm still. Of course, I'm going to reach out to him first to be like, hey, we've got to get this fixed. We've got water coming through the walls. It's that bad. So I think I would think that he tried to do it as much as he could, but
You have to have it for the drainage, right?
Yeah, I had no idea.
From the roof. Yeah,
I see two things there. The scupper goes through the wall,
right.
and then the collection is a good downspout in the box. That's what you're talking about.
It's lower than the hole, right?
I can't tell where the hole is. Is it above
That black spot?
That's the hole, that's the scupper through the wall. But we're talking about the box, the collection.
I thought a scupper was more of a hole,
It goes through the wall normally.
right?
That's
Yeah.
staff
The drain.
inaccurate terminology, not the
Okay.
applicant, so you know. We
But
were
you're
just
talking
trying to
about-
describe those.
Not trying
You're
to
talking
bring
about the
anything
top,
up here.
you're talking about the box on top of the
Yeah.
downspout.
Yeah.
And because it's not the historic one. Yeah. It's shown on the photograph on page 10.
So a continuance, Katie, would allow them a chance to find what we're referring to as a scupper that looked like the
What is
one
that
that was
called?
there prior to the replacement, and maybe replacing the new one with something that looks more in line with what used to be there?
Yeah. If the commission feels like what was there likely was historic, and if you feel like this is too much of a variation from what was there, then we could ask them to look at something that was more accurate to the historic feature.
What are you calling the box then?
So I guess it's the collection box.
I don't know, I'll have to look it up.
I've had more experience with the scuppers than I ever wanted to in a historic home, and it wasn't a box.
Yeah, well, we're just talking about the exterior portion you
Right.
can see.
Right.
This one,
But the same applies to the door. What would we do there?
It's been replaced with a solid.
The
and
back page.
The transom's gone.
Is it covered? I'm not seeing that picture.
It's on,
I think the door is an item, but the transom is an item.
it's gone.
Is that right?
Is it just covered up with a piece of wood, or?
Do you know if that transom window is still there above the door?
We did talk about that when we met. I don't have access to that. That's the gentleman behind me, so I haven't really seen him in quite a while. It was covered with a piece of wood prior to me getting the building in 2011. What condition that window is behind there, I have no idea until I can maybe access that fire exit to look in there.
Are you leasing your
Yes.
space?
Yeah.
The owner is 2424 Investment
Yes.
in Chicago.
Yep, Chicago and L.A. They got no money to help me.
So it'd be nice to know what's back there. because
right.
That's not a
maybe-
I was going to ask you again, Catherine, we did speak about this. We are going to remove the paper that's, or whatever, the stickers that are on the windows now. Now, that in particular window that is right there, it looks into basically a fire exit. So it's not that attractive looking. And we did discuss possibly me finishing it with like a shaded type of, it's a spray-on adhesive that makes it almost like you can't see through it, but, it's kind of like a clear glass
Yeah,
or
translucent.
a shaded, I don't know how to describe it the best way.
Translucent?
Yes.
Yeah.
Is that something I can still do, or do you want me to just leave it open? Because there's nothing to really look at, it's a fire exit.
I think we need to, if you can send me something about the product you want to use.
Oh,
Sometimes
okay.
we see people put things on the interior of like bathroom windows and such that is totally removable and still fairly transparent, but we can.
Yeah, it is stained glass. It's not stained glass, but I can't think of the name of it right now, but it's just kind of filters it where you can't see in.
Frosted.
Yeah, it's a translucent.
Frosted, thank you.
Frosted.
So, and it is removable because you can just take a razor blade and take it off if needed.
Give me a call
Okay.
or email me, and we can talk about kind of some options with
Okay.
that. But it sounds like maybe some of these items are things that really need to be raised with the owner of the building, like the
Transom.
gutter and downspout and
Transom.
the exit door, since that's not your space.
Right.
So it might make sense for those items to be continued, and then staff can follow up with try and contact the actual property owner
Okay.
about those.
I think he expects to hear from you guys because he knew I was coming today, and it's
Okay.
like, look, we're trying to get
Yeah,
all
and he
this.
did call and touch base last week as well, to make
Oh,
sure that
okay.
we had everything we needed, so.
All right.
All right.
I think we've gone over all the items, and it sounds like you agree to the staff recommendation and kind of know how to proceed. So I'll move to approve HPCA 18-00036, items 1, 2, and 4, with the specific findings and unique circumstances as identified in the staff report.
Second.
So moved by Neela Clemens, and seconded by Heather Clemmer. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, those items are approved.
Move to deny HPCA 18-00036, items 3 and 5, and that is the Klingons on the windows that you said you would remove, and the neon lights along the parapet along the front of the building. Deny those with prejudice.
Okay. Heather?
Second.
You second? Okay. It's been moved by Neela Clemens, and seconded by Klaus Ryman Philip. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, those items are denied with prejudice.
And then move to continue HPCA 18-00036, item 7 to cover transom, and 8 to replace scupper.
Second.
Moved by Neela Clemens, seconded by Heather Clemmer. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, those two items are
So we actually,
continued.
sorry? Oh, what meeting, yeah. We need to discuss that.
We're trying to get in touch with the property owner, probably not this next meeting, but the following.
So, October?
October,
October 3rd.
3rd, yeah.
okay, continue that till October 3rd. And actually, we did not go over item 6.
Yes, I was
Jumped
gonna
Could
say
you
that.
amend your,
Right.
could she amend her motion
Oh, that's-
to include items 1, 2, 4, and 6? Yeah, 1,
Yeah, 1,
2,
2, 4, and 6.
1, 2, 4, and 6.
You want to do that?
Unless anyone wants to discuss item 6.
Go ahead.
Okay, I'll amend my motion to include item 6.
And who seconded
I'll
that?
second the amended.
Did you second it? Can you accept that? Okay.
Can accept.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that's, the amended motion is approved.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Okay, anything else? All right, next. Thank you. All right, Freddy Krueger.
HPCA 18-49 at 805 Northwest 39th Street, Crown Heights, Ward 2. Consideration and possible action on application of Frederick Krueger for certificate of appropriateness to, 1, replace wood garage doors with steel doors, elective.
Okay. Hello?
I am Frederick Krueger, no kin to the movie, so Oklahoma
What
City
can I
is
say, man?
805 Northwest 39th Street.
Okay, thank you.
I want to point out just a few things.
If you would also sign in, sir, too?
Sign
Thank
in.
you, yeah. Okay.
I don't know what it means, relationship with owner. Oh, okay.
All right.
I'd just like to point out a few things about this area. First of all, there's 39 homes on 39th West. 9 of them have wooden doors on the garage with glass left. 20 of them have metal doors, 10 of them have wooden doors on the garage, and there are no windows on those garages. So it looks to me like 30 windows, 30 doors have already been changed in the neighborhood, and 39. The metal doors are lighter and easier to open and close. 30 metal and wooden doors that are there look the same. The wooden are $1,100, The metal are $500. The garage for this place is in the far back of the lot, and unless you stop and drive in the driveway, it's hard to see the garage. And the metal can have auto lifts much more easily than the other. So once again, I petition that I be able to put metal, possibility with windows on it, and change the doors out and be done.
Thank
Any
you.
questions?
Yeah, any comments on this? Staff's recommend continue for more information, but we know that steel doors aren't consistent with the guidelines in Crown Heights.
Yeah, it looks like, Mr. Kruger, the guidelines don't provide that Crown Heights can have metal doors. I understood you said that there are quite a few on your street.
Yes, on our street alone, from what I've done in the past, over 60% of the doors in Crown Heights
Yeah.
are metal now.
Yeah. Well, we don't know if those cases came before us or not. We don't know if they, whether we approved them at all, so we really can't consider those. Have you considered a wood veneer over a concealed metal frame? The guidelines do provide for that, and that would be lighter than a wood door.
That would be the next thing I have to find the price on.
Okay?
And since I'm working on Social Security for both my
Yeah.
wife and I, we have, to put it very plainly, you've already taken $650 because we couldn't paint the building in 20-degree weather. And it seems like the people who I went before didn't understand that you don't paint houses or garages that old in 20-degree weather. So anyway, I have to save the money now for the next thing.
I understand that.
Appreciate that. Could you, maybe you could work with staff on that type of door that Neil is recommending and see if that might be
I
acceptable?
would find out about a metal one that you can put wooden
Yeah,
things on, whatever it is.
might be a good
Yeah.
compromise.
Yeah, so what we can do is continue the application to give you time to work with staff, to find that door, as you said, get your pricing, locate some different styles, and that is an administratively approvable item. So should you work with them and are able to find something that's compatible with the guidelines, you would not have to come back before the commission. Staff
Okay, and the door that I would present to you, if it looked like these other 30 doors that are already there,
That's, like I said, we don't even know if those cases came before us or what the circumstances were. So, I mean, staff might have some ideas on that, but typically we wouldn't consider those.
okay.
If you can come up with something that staff will approve, you don't have to come back, is what Neil is saying.
So I go to the staff themselves and
Yeah.
present what it is.
Yep.
Okay.
Yes.
Hopefully that'll work out. Okay, so we're going to continue to...
To what meeting?
I'd say do the October 3rd meeting, and
Okay.
that'll give us time between now and then to find something that we can administratively approve and that hopefully meets your needs as well.
All right, thank you.
So we'll continue HPCA 18-00049, item 1, to the October 3rd meeting.
Have a motion?
That is a
Is
motion.
there a second? Second. So moved by Neela Crank Clements, a second by Suzanne Broadbent. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay. You're continued. Hopefully that'll work out for you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Could you come up to the podium? Is it about that case, or?
Yeah, I came in about 5 minutes late. I was listed
It's okay.
the consent docket cases, the first one.
Consent docket was approved, so
It was,
you're
okay.
approved. Yep.
Okay. Consent docket, all right.
No, we won't tell you now, you just have to wait till the end of the meeting. So,
Keep you in suspense. All right, next one has been withdrawn.
HPCA 18-55 has been withdrawn, so
Okay.
we'll hear from them again another time.
All right.
HPCA 18-00103 at 3100 North Harvey Parkway, Edgemere Park, Ward 2, consideration and possible action on application of Brian Bogert by James Boswell Architect for certificate of appropriateness to 1, install windows and door on south elevation of non-historic garage required, 2, enclose outdoor kitchen on north elevation with modification of roof required, 3, construct addition on west elevation to include enclosed storage and gated trash enclosure required, 4, construct glass cube addition on east elevation, elective, 5, construct 8-foot high masonry wall at southeast corner, elective, and 6, install attic vents, elective.
Okay.
You do have some letters of support from neighbors, as well as a letter from the Edgemere Park Neighborhood Preservation Review Committee.
Okay. not a very big podium, is it?
No, it's not.
You are?
I'm James Boswell. I'm
Okay.
an architect representing the homeowner.
Okay. And you've signed in and everything?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
I do have 3 more letters of support that did not make it in time. If you guys want to see those, and maybe some.
Can I hand those out? It's not new design information, just information.
This is a pretty high-profile lot. It's a corner lot.
Yeah.
To the neighborhood. It's one of the larger lots, I think, in Edgemire. Would like to point out that the existing historic residence is totally visible. It's not screened by any fencing, landscaping. The homeowner has really kind of maintained the integrity of the original home. The proposal is to turn a detached garage into a pool house. He doesn't need the second garage, but does need the pool house. The staff covered, I think, 1 and 2 pretty well. The homeowner is landscaping the south elevation with Taylor junipers, kind of help screen and create some more privacy for him. Item 2, the west elevation, I think staff had the issues with. My design intent was kind of based on making this look like an accessory carriage house, which is kind of not uncommon in the neighborhood. So the kind of the proposed door would kind of replicate an entry into a carriage house. Currently, the trash cans are stored out on the driveway, so we were proposing a trash enclosure. The idea is the gates would have similar detailing to the current overhead door with the panels and be painted the same. Steel post and steel frame would be painted out additionally. Item number 5 on the west elevation is a proposed sunroom. It's, like I said, this is a big lot. It's a corner lot. Our client really doesn't have a backyard. So this is really on the back of the proposed pool house. It would be, in most instances, in someone's backyard. I provided, I don't know if it made it in your packet, but what was just passed out, some views along 30th Street. That portion of the back of the proposed pool house is really screened by landscaping and an existing 6-foot cedar fence. So it's really just, it's not visible from 30th Street. Item 5 on the height of the wall that we're proposing, that would help screen it, the sunroom. We're matching the existing wall that is, you can see in that previous picture, it's 8 feet, it's got greenery on it. It is a brick masonry wall that's painted to match the residence. We're proposing to match that masonry wall. That would also screen the sunroom and also provide, we're hoping to have a little garden outside the sunroom between the masonry wall and the glass enclosure. So kind of a little Zen garden. So the wall is really more of an extension of the wall of the pool house. I think in the guidelines, it refers to fences and fence walls as typically defining boundaries, property boundaries. This is well off the property line, well beyond the required setbacks. So I see it more of as an architectural feature of the building and less of a fence. Open to questions.
I agree with that. I wish that you would have included a drawing, an elevation or a perspective showing the extended wall
It's in the new packet I just gave you guys.
in the new packet.
Yeah. It's on the back of the folded, it's It's on the back of the 11 by
If you
17
open
folder.
it up, it compares the existing garage to what we're proposing. So on the west elevation, I think we're adding kind of architectural interest. To me, it's a little bit more aesthetical than an overhead door.
Will the property not have a garage?
I'm sorry?
Will the property not have a garage?
There's an attached garage to the existing residence.
Oh, there is, okay. I
You can see it right there.
missed that.
That
There it
was
is, sorry.
that was the original to the house. It has been, and it was enlarged, I think, in '04. It was approved by, it got a CA, but
So
that
that
was,
was an
original to the house was a garage.
The detached garage was
It was
original?
original to the house with an attached garage. It was attached to the main residence.
The attached garage was original?
The attached
Okay.
garage was
So the detached garage was added?
added in '04,
Oh, 4, okay.
and it was approved.
So it's not original and
It is non-historic.
not historic?
I guess the view I was looking
know
for
that.
is the extended wall. But,
We were trying to match that photograph, I'm sorry.
oh, to the, yeah,
Just to get the same perspective.
that's better. I appreciate that one. Okay, now I see a fence in that. Is that existing?
There's an existing fence there on the existing property.
Is it shown on the site plan?
It's shown on that, yes, survey.
Is that wall the same wall
Shown?
Which wall?
in this view?
Yes.
That's the same
That shows
wall
as
as in that
Yes,
one?
that's the
Okay.
existing wall.
All right, just want to
And
make
you
sure.
can see in that photograph you looked at, you can see the trash cans are just sitting
Yeah.
outside.
Did you add that little detail with the curve?
That was actually in the previous drawings,
Yep,
and that were approved in '04. The little dip in the wall?
Yep, that's already there, and it
That's
was
there.
approved. in
It is there?
'04.
I can't see it in
Some of the
that.
older walls maybe have that
Yeah,
feature that
yes.
are around the house. That's a
Yes.
historic feature that they
Okay.
replicated, and that wall is not changing. They're adding a
Yeah.
wall that would, they're proposing to add a wall that would match that at the opposite end of the garage.
I just couldn't see it real well on that photograph, and now I do see it. So, okay?
Sorry, it's in shadow.
I'm
Yeah,
sorry, I
well-
still don't see a site plan with the wrought iron fence.
With the what? Wrought iron fence?
I saw a photo, so I know it's existing.
Oh, I might be able to.
Okay. Okay. Oh, that's it.
And it connects to
Oh, okay.
Once construction's done, the client plans on landscaping that wall, that fence a little bit more, just to create a little bit more privacy. He's got a pretty backyard. It kind of dips down, and he's preparing, I don't know his schedule on that, but he plans on landscaping that, and that was kind of the inspiration for the sunroom, to kind of look out onto the backyard.
Mr. Boswell, would you come show me on this where that fence is? Make sure. I think I see
Which fence we're talking about?
the metal fence.
The middle fence.
So,
That-
yeah,
okay.
it's the straight
That goes to
line
the,
that
runs
comes...
perpendicular to the new wall that's proposed.
The red line.
Okay, that's
Okay,
what I
I see
thought.
it.
Thank you.
It's not labeled, but yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Any comments from anybody?
I'll say one thing that, I think could have been improved possibly if it had been submitted earlier is, the trash enclosure and the door kind of feels like a back of the house, items that are kind of placed in the front or street facing. I'm not sure if there's a way to correct that, if there's a way to change the layout to where it feels more like an entry maybe than, kind of back of house facing the street.
Like I said, this is a corner lot, and there's no really great place to, put stuff like that. I mean, it's visible from two sides, and the lot's 300 feet deep. So, I mean, if you put it on the back, 40, which isn't very convenient for the client.
Well, I'm just wondering about, since the garage is, I'm trying to see it on the site plan, the attached garage on the house, and this is not going to be a garage, why do you need the driveway on this?
It's kind of a circle drive.
Does it go around?
Yeah.
Okay, it doesn't show off, because that's 2 levels, okay. Yeah, I just wondered, or at least the portion that extends to the detached garage, I guess what I'm saying, maybe you could redo that so you screen and not have a door facing the street, and turn it around and maybe enlarge and make a enclosure for the dump, for the trash, that you can't see from the street as well. You know what I'm saying?
Well, in essence, what we've done is create a screen.
But you've got a door facing the street, more or less.
Yeah.
And it's a very small enclosure. I'm just saying, that little piece of paving there, maybe you could enlarge that portion to more screen all that, as Klaus recommended. Is that little room with the doors, it's a storage room, is that all that is?
Yeah, just storage. I mean, one
not an
thing he did
entrance?
need is garage for some chemical storage for the pools and stuff like
Yeah,
that.
but you could easily turn that door to the north if you enlarge that a little bit and maybe make that a better enclosure screening for the trash and the door.
Currently, the trash enclosure would be approximately 4 by 8, 8 feet wide.
I'm just saying you could enlarge that to not have to have that door facing to the west.
The door to this little storage area?
Yeah, it looks like an entrance door and it's not, and it's facing the street.
Well, like I said, it's kind of, my idea was to make it feel like it was possibly a carriage house.
Yeah, but it's a door to a chemical storage room or something. I think that's one of the neighborhood's objections, and I can see that could be easily changed.
Yeah.
Very visible from the street. My thought, that you could create some of that with that paved area that's not needed anymore because there's no garage door anymore.
Yeah, I think it's relatively, you can kind of see the curb inlet, and if you cut part of that off, we can't bring it out too much more.
Just take that curve, and you've got, looks like, quite a bit you could work with. That's my thought. What do you think, Klaus? What I'm saying, does it make any sense?
Yeah, I know it does. I mean, I think, obviously you want the connection to pool in the back, and, that makes a lot of sense. I think in an ideal world, maybe, the kind of mechanical, the storage, and even the trash, I wonder if there's a way that the trash could have been, I'm not sure, are there 2 trash locations? Like maybe one closer to the house, and maybe one?
That's it.
Because, I mean, to me, it almost seems like it'd be more convenient to have the trash maybe screened closer to the house. It'd be more convenient, I would think, to take your trash out. Then maybe have another side entry into the, maybe like a...
There is a side entry off that's next to the attached garage, which is really more of a primary entrance. The way
You're talking about on the north side of the wall there, or...
north of that one, that'd be in his backyard.
Yeah.
Well, I still
So
think
the
that
backyard kind of terraces down.
I still think if we change to de-emphasize that and relocate that door, it would improve make it look less like an entrance to me. I don't know if anybody else feels that way. It's fairly easy.
I'm wondering if it's just storage, is there a way? It looks like you might have, well, it looks like you have a shelf for towels. I was wondering if maybe you just made it, accessible from the inside, and then maybe that just becomes, but
There's kind of
looks like that'd be a little bit tight on the current plan.
yeah, it'd be a little snug.
As far as enclosing the outdoor kitchen, since it's on the north and doesn't face the street, doesn't seem to be as objectionable to me. The glass cube, definitely differentiated from the existing structure, is visible from the street, but it's somewhat hidden by the wall.
Are you proposing the wall in front of the glass cube as a way to screen the glass cube?
It screens it and gives it privacy.
And private, both, yeah.
Yeah, and like I said, we're planning on a little Zen garden between the glass wall and it.
And Katie, is that the wall that it exceeds our height limits? Is that what I remember?
Yeah, I mean, if you consider it to be a fence wall, then it's taller than what's allowed in the side yard. If you think of it as just an architectural feature and an extension of the garage, then there's not a height limitation for that.
To me, it's more of an architectural feature. It's attached to the garage, but
I agree.
I'm not sure if if that portion's been constructed yet or not. Do you guys have any opinions on whether it's flush with the exterior wall or set back at all to differentiate it? I guess it's not a historical structure to begin with,
yeah, that doesn't
so it doesn't really make a difference.
bother me that much, but
Yeah. It's fine.
to me, the big issue is that
Right.
little addition with the door that looks like an entrance and the trash area.
I mean, if you don't know what's behind there, which we don't, which we're just looking at the outside, then nobody knows that it's in storage. It could be the door to the whatever.
I know, but
The other is, when you, in the picture, they have the trash cans just sitting out there in the current garage, right next to the door. So, I mean, that's an improvement to have the thing there. I don't know. It doesn't bother me because, I mean, they've got a problem in that, you know, they've got a garage that's right there on the corner of a street in an unusual situation. So, anyway, that's my thought. I see concerns, but I think they're all reasonable for the owner to ask for.
And I do recognize on a corner lot, it's kind of tough, to have kind of the back of house because you're exposed on at least two sides. I mean, there can be creative workarounds. I don't know if it's a deal.
It enhances really the neighborhood in that there could be a choice where they just put a 6-foot stockade fence all the way around the whole property, and that would look a lot less inviting as far as being a part of the neighborhood than
they didn't submit that, though.
having. Yeah, I know, but I'm saying.
We don't deal with what-ifs.
Without a fence, it looks, I mean.
We're just reviewing what they've submitted.
Oh, that's-
so. Anyhow, okay, so how about everybody else? It's a modest, and the neighborhood says it's a large addition, but it's fairly modest for the size of the house, the main house. So,
I still think it's modest to the residence, which is two-story. It
yeah,
has arched windows and inlaid tile details and a heavy timbered balcony, so it's understated to the main residence.
speaking of what-ifs, they could have wanted to put a two-story garage.
Well, we did approve a 2-story, 3-car garage just down the street.
Yeah, I
from there.
know. Yeah.
Because of the size of the lot, it was like 4 times as big as the original garage, which we allowed them to tear down. So.
Okay.
Just to, if this is helpful at all, the very last page of the staff report is the old site plan from the 2004 CA, and that shows the existing, the attached garage, the wall between the two garages, and the circle drive a little more. There's a little bit less detail on that one, so it might be a little more legible than the other site plan.
What page is that on?
At the very last page of your staff report, page 46.
Oh, okay, wow, I didn't get that far.
So according to this, the original wall was supposed to be 6 feet, but it was built at 8 feet, so beyond what the CA had called for.
Okay. Anybody else? Your motion?
I'm sorry, I make a motion to approve HPCA 1800103, items 1, 2, 3, with the specific findings as noted by the staff in the staff report, and to approve item 4 with the specific findings that the proposed addition is in a highly visible location, that it utilizes a design that are not typical for accessory structures, that the proposed features do not, let's see, the proposed do not retain the structures as sacred. That one's a tough one to understand here. That the proposed features do not visually overwhelm or compete with the property's other historic buildings, that the, let's see, and the unique, what is it? Unique circumstance that the masonry wall is a important part of the design, and as a result should be regarded as an extended wall rather than a fence to allow the 8-foot height.
Okay, item 6?
I'm sorry?
Did you say about item 6 yet?
Okay, that was item,
That was 5.
okay, they don't match, and 6.
Do you want to add or change the specific findings for item 3, which was to construct addition on west elevation? Do you want to change some that, or pick out some that staff recommended and add some, or, if you want to consider that?
I'm looking at, oh, okay, I see. The numbers don't match up here. Addition.
It's 4.
The gated area, okay.
Yeah, they're not in order.
And that and in regards to item 3, that the proposed features are, let's see, not really sure how to say that.
I think you could say the proposed features do not visually overwhelm or
Yes, that's
compete
okay.
with the property's
Yes.
other historic buildings.
Yes.
And that the proposed materials appear to meet relevant guidelines. Proposed addition is in a location visible from the public right-of-way. I think that's all
Thank
I
you.
would add. You're welcome.
I'd like to include those proposed
What she said.
findings. What she said, thank you so much.
All right. Is there a second?
I second.
Okay, it's been moved by Joe Meacham, second by Neela Clement. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, those items have been approved.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next.
HPCA 18-00112 at 2709 North Hudson, Jefferson Park, Ward 2. Consideration and possible action on application of Allison Mazinski by Tai for certificate of appropriateness to 1, construct garage elective, and 2, replace driveway and paving elective.
Okay. Hello?
Hello, my name is Che Yi.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
Che Yi.
Okay, staff's recommending approval. This?
Since this was submitted, did staff ask for or receive an actual site plan that shows the exact location of the garage on the property?
I only have the one that that had submitted. My architect was out of town and he couldn't get it to me in time to get where I think they wanted one with all 4 sides.
Yes.
And I think we have it with just the 2 sides. But I mean, obviously it's not today, but I can't have that to you. It's just.
What were you asking, Joe?
Well, it just does not have the entire lot And
Yeah, I think I
now that I look
would,
at it, I see what you're saying, that I wasn't, I was
2 feet.
looking for the whole thing, but you do have 2 sides, but usually we require that for a garage that you have a whole site plan
Yeah, I think they'll need to have all 4 for a building
for a
permit.
building permit
that
anyway,
could
so.
But the location is 2 feet from the back property line and 3 feet from the
from the
west.
south.
Oh.
Well, it'd be, yes, from the west
Okay,
to
that's
south.
north, so that's west. Okay, west.
And that's in line with most of the ones on the deal, most of the garages, or just one that we've recently approved?
Just the ones that I've seen in the neighbors, that's where they seem to be positioned.
There's a satellite image
Yeah.
on page 30 of 43 of the staff report, and it looks like out of 5 houses on the block, some may be multifamily and duplexes, I don't know, but out of 5 structures, the smaller structures, there are currently 2 existing garages. One is new, that's at the back of the lot with the alley access. Maybe, it looks like they don't actually use the alley.
Doesn't look
They
like
have that, the one directly behind has the alley access, and then the neighbor to the south has
I see, so the other
alley
side,
access.
okay, yeah, it's hard to see those, okay.
So the unusual thing about this, or unique circumstance, is that there is an alley, you know?
Yeah, it's like the one block that has an
Yeah.
alley, and
We looked at something we
all had
kind of
alleys.
talked about before with garages, was that it was within kind of the range of setbacks along the block, that the garages are not all neatly aligned,
Yeah.
and there are some farther forward and
Yeah.
some farther back.
Yeah.
Although it seems like having the garage farther back, if you do have an alley, seems pretty consistent with the historical character of neighborhoods in the area.
If you look across the alley, it looks like there's some also, but, so, all right.
So, Mr. Yee, do you agree with the condition that the paving must be medium gray and match the aged appearance of pavement?
yes.
Do we also want to add the condition that he gets a site plan showing all 4 sides of the lot before the CA is issued? Okay.
Yeah, so I can get that to you.
Okay, then I move to approve HPCA 18-00112, Item 1, with the specific findings, conditions, and unique circumstances as listed in staff report.
Okay.
Is that for 1 and 2? You said 1.
For all of it?
Thank you, Heather. Yes, 1 and 2.
Second.
Moved by Anita Cohen Clement, second by Heather Clemmer. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, been approved.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next case. Sidewalks.
HPCA 18-00114 at 908 Northwest 22nd Street, Nesta Park, Ward 6. Consideration of possible action on application of Eric Catalfu for certificate of appropriateness to 1, replace 3-foot wide sidewalk across front of house with 5-foot wide sidewalk elective. 2, replace 4-foot wide sidewalk from porch to public sidewalk and street with 5-foot wide sidewalk elective. And 3, replace 5-foot wide public sidewalk in kind elective. And I'll just mention that the next application after this one is identical. So there's 2 houses right next to each other, so they're proposing basically the same work at both houses.
Okay, is the applicant present? Okay. All right. Discussion. Some of our comments earlier was, it's hard to tell the width because it's a little overgrown. But assuming the dimensions are correct. Any comments on that, on this?
I agree with staff that the public sidewalk would be the same size.
Okay?
The one going from the driveway to the house would be enlarged, but the one that goes from the public sidewalk to the house must remain the same width, or should.
I could be wrong because I did take a tape measure to it, but it seemed like, there are the 2 houses that are in these 2 proposals on the applications. And it seemed like the house to the east and to the west of both of these houses may have had slightly wider sidewalks leading from the street to the house. Maybe you could correct me if I'm wrong, Katie, but it kind of-
In their picture, they say will be widened from 3 feet. Sidewalk B and D, which are the ones from the street to the public
Here we go.
sidewalk and from the house.
So is that item 2? Both of those? Is that item 2?
So I guess that would be,
Okay.
item 2
Okay.
is all the way from
Okay.
the street then to the house, which,
Yeah, I think we need to know what's going on with the other houses,
Yeah.
with the sidewalks on the houses on either side of these. So I think, yeah, it looks like,
so maybe get some dimensions on the neighboring
Yeah.
houses and
yeah.
proposed.
And this gets confusing. So the number, which one is it that goes from the street to the house?
It's item 2.
Item
the staff
2,
report.
that you're recommending continuing for more information? Okay,
Yes.
all right. And then across the front of the house, they want to go from a 3-foot to a 5-foot sidewalk. Seems wide, when the main sidewalk going to the house is only 4 feet.
Well, I think, isn't 5 feet the minimum standard now?
For the public
Yeah.
sidewalk.
Oh, you're talking
Public
about that.
This, I'm talking about the one they're talking about going from the sidewalk to the driveway, close to the house. 5 feet seems wide,
and then there's
3 to 5.
also a step that was not included in the application.
We were talking that the public sidewalk is basically being replaced in kind, whatever the width is, and it matches all the others, so, but the city standard is 5 feet for a public sidewalk, as you probably know, so,
So let's say the sidewalk that goes from the front steps down to the public sidewalk, if we continue that in order to see what's going on with sidewalks on other, in the yards and other houses, maybe we determine that 5 feet is too wide, if that's the case. Wouldn't we want the sidewalk that goes from the driveway to that sidewalk to
Continue?
be the same width?
or less. I wouldn't want it to be wider. Well, I guess they were
Right.
wanting the 4 from the house to the street to be 5 feet also, right? Yep.
If the applicant was here, maybe they could answer it. There could be a reason because of disability or wheelchair access or something like that, that they needed a wider sidewalk.
From the driveway
From the
to the house.
driveway to
yeah.
the,
But it's got a step.
no, there's not a step from the driveway to the house.
Oh, the other, we're getting our sidewalks.
So-
right
On the
from
picture we're
house
looking
and
at
driveway.
there,
Yeah,
There's one house has a step and one does not.
okay.
yeah, one doesn't. Okay.
Katie, what is our handicapped accessibility issue with guidelines on that? Just because it was mentioned.
On private property, there's not really any requirement as far, I don't think, as far as, like, at your private home, you don't have to provide handicap accessible
Right.
entrances to your home.
Right.
The public sidewalk, they have to meet certain standards as far as the grade and the width and
Right.
that sort of thing. But when
Right.
it's just a private sidewalk in your,
Yard,
that's not in the public right-of-way.
but you could
there's
have
no
it wider if
requirements.
you needed it for handicapped
Yes.
accessibility?
You could have it 1.5 feet wide if that's what you want, or you could have it 6 feet wide.
Oh.
If that's what you want. There's not a minimum or a maximum for those. It's just what the commission approves.
'Cause I know for ramps, we always talked about it being more of a temporary,
We've
Yes.
done that, yeah.
Yeah.
right?
So it can be reversed.
Yeah, later. Just asking.
But a sidewalk is permanent, so, yeah.
I mean, I think I'd be most
Please.
comfortable with moving forward to approve item 3, that public sidewalk, because we know it has to be 5 feet wide anyway.
Well, it's either 5 feet wide or what's there right now, because it matches all the ones down the
Okay.
street. So,
So we
I look
should-
at the photograph, and it doesn't look 5 feet wide to me, but it might be.
If there's a,
I mean, they say in here, no changes to width.
Okay, okay.
we
5 feet or
could,
what it's existing.
we
but
can
like that.
administratively approve that if it's in kind. So if you wanted to continue all of them and follow up with the applicant and verify the width of everything, we could continue those and then potentially
Yeah.
administratively approve some portions of it.
They'll probably do it
So
all at once.
Katie,
Do that.
if they were just, if they came in and they said, okay, we just as soon go ahead and do it, they could get your approval if they did not widen any of the sidewalks.
Right, if everything's in kind, we can administratively approve that.
Okay, so move to continue the whole case. Okay. HPCA 18-00114, move to continue items 1, 2, and 3 to,
I'm thinking maybe the September 5th meeting for that, because it should be pretty quick.
okay, to September 5th.
They want.
Got it.
Okay. Is that a motion?
That
Is
is.
there a second? Second. Moved by Neela Crane Clemens, and seconded by Suzanne Broadbent. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay. Continued. And next is the same.
HPCA 18-00115 at 912 Northwest 22nd Street is essentially the same proposal at the neighboring property, same property owner.
Okay. Any difference between these? They look exactly the same.
No, I think there's a little bit of difference in the layout to the sidewalk up by the house and the porch, but it's essentially the same proposed
Proposal.
work.
Yeah.
To widen each of those sidewalks.
All right. Okay.
Okay, and I would move to continue this case as well to the September 5th meeting.
Second.
Moved by Neela Crane Clemens, and seconded by Suzanne Broadbent. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that's also continued. And on to the next.
HPCA
Thicker.
18-00117 at 3206 North Hudson, Edgemere Park, Ward 2, consideration and possible action on application of Larry and Maria Kuntz by Catherine Montgomery for certificate of appropriateness to, number 1, demolish garage elective, 2, replace driveway and alter topography by 6 inches to redirect water away from buildings elective, 3, construct new dormers at house and install windows elective, 4, replace gable vent with fixed window elective, 5, construct garage elective, 6, install wood screens at house elective, 7, install wood screen door at back door of house elective, 8, install light fixtures at front and back door of house elective, 9, install light fixtures at southeast corner of house elective, and 10, install electrical outlets near front and rear entries of house elective.
Okay.
Larry and Maria Coons were the
Okay.
owners.
Great. Thank you. You signed in. All right. Any question for them? And your architect is present. Did the neighbor have any comments on this one?
No.
No. Okay.
Did you have any comments in regards to staff's recommendations? On the two, there were two that were, the gable vent with the window, did you?
On the front window, I think the proposal is to retain the current size and just put a window
Put
in,
a fixed glass window in.
right, with a fixed glass window. And that would provide some additional light as we're building into the attic,
Uh-huh.
and that would provide some additional light into that bedroom. And then the light fixture on the back garage, or on the back of the house, would provide some illumination as we are backing out of the garage, so we don't back into the house.
Right. I mean, personally, I've looked at it, and I understand the gable vent. I personally, I don't see a problem with that. They're not altering the size of the opening. And the light fixture is, under the findings, say that it's not visible from the public right-of-way. So I would say, to me, that kind of falls in things that are done on the back of the house. So,
But on that gable vent, guideline 3.1.26 says historic architectural features should be retained and preserved. And that's an architectural feature, even though they'd be replacing
Right.
it with a window in the same opening. It is a different feature, so I kind of struggle with that one.
Ken Hodgman, 616 Northwest 21st Street, architect. The staff also says that the vent is recessed that it's not very visible, and that the reflectivity from the street is not going to be able to be seen because it's such a small slit. As Larry said, the opening will be retained, the trim area will be retained. So as you can see in this photograph, you see a black box. So with a clear window in that opening, you will still basically see a black box.
I mean, it looks like a black box in the picture before because you're far away. I guess you do see some depth with the vents, the louvers, I guess you would call those, that you're not going to get with a window with glass.
Is that louver, if the attic is built out currently, is it venting the attic actively currently, or is the build out all the way to that exterior wall?
The louver at one time vented to the attic. It does not any longer. It has been boxed in. It's pretty typical of a lot of attic spaces. As air conditioning and everything was added, that they didn't feel that they needed those vents to be working. So I've worked in houses in Lincoln Terrace that the vents were all just boarded over on the inside because when they were built, they allow birds to come in, they provide a nesting area, so they're kind of they become as no longer useful. They are now a hazard to allowing vermin into the house.
I have a question about the placement of the dormers. Maybe Mr. Architect could. They were. It looks the one on the faces to the east seems a little close to the edge. I was just wondering. It looked like it might have been done to align with the outside face of the other dormer on the proposed east elevation.
The one that is facing east, which faces the backyard,
Yeah.
I believe that, we're running into a bunch of different angles and everything where we want the sill of the window and the wall to be a certain distance away from the valley.
It looks like the slope of the hip portion would intersect.
So
Yeah.
we're trying to
figure out why they did that.
shoehorn it in as tight as we can get it. So since that room is going to be a bedroom, we have to meet the egress capacity. So the sill has to be a certain height and everything. So we might be able to move it a little bit further north, but I'm not sure.
Much. Looks like the edge of it's right on the intersection. The back room, is that a bathroom? The east room?
Yes.
So that dormer is just for light in the bathroom, not egress. Okay.
Light and ventilation.
Ventilation, yeah. Okay. All right.
The dormers seem pretty, they're all behind the roof line, so I don't think they'd be too visible from the street, as far as I can tell.
I think you could see them, but they're relatively, unless you go way over the side, but I think they're relatively concealed. Now I understand why that one was placed where it is. Okay.
I can kind of see it both ways on the louver. I understand Mary Jo's, same size, wouldn't totally change the facade of the front, but it does have some texture to it, which I think you're alluding to. So I understand wanting to keep that texture and that depth, but it is a non-functioning louver, so part of me thinks that you could get a little more usability without totally changing the character of the house by converting it to a window.
I almost think that it looks like it has 2 mullions in it, a horizontal and a vertical. Yes. Very narrow. It almost seems
11 inches, I believe.
It almost seems like it ought to be, not call attention being a window, just does not have the mullions in it. Yeah. What do you think, Klaus?
Definitely, I think one pane of glass. I'm trying to find a picture of what you're describing.
It's the elevation on page...
Yeah, I think...
page 7. Of
As
50.
narrow as that makes,
Yeah.
each individual pane, I think keeping it one pane
Yeah.
might be helpful. I think that would actually relate better to, the louvers that there currently, because it kind of read as one anyway. Yeah, I agree.
Well, I think that there's not much utility in changing that louver, just a little extra light, which is certainly available through other sources, it appears. And I do think those things that's on the front of the house, and it's a minor inconvenience, if that, just to keep the louver. It's already boxed in, it's not hurting anything, you're not getting birds' nests in there now, or that sort of thing. So I would prefer that they keep the louver the way it is.
Anybody else have comment?
What's the function of the room that it's in?
The bedroom? It'll be a bedroom.
But the dormer on the other side allows for the egress to be.
Where's that up floor plan? Oh, it's right there. I'm just looking for where it was. It's right in the middle of the proposed wall of the bedroom, which architecturally would be nice to have a window. But it is kind of an unusual shape, too. Anybody else? Any more questions, or somebody want to try a motion? Seems like that's the only issue.
Well, based on following up on an earlier comment about the louver, 3.6.6 does say new window openings may be allowed on the back facade or the back 30% of the side elevations, and of course must be compatible. And so this is allowing a new window, changing that louver, which clearly we can make decisions outside the guidelines, I understand that, but it is opening a door or a window, what are you going to say, to possibly, other requests coming in for more substantial changes, and I don't think this one's necessary, and I think it affects the front of the house too much.
I think we'd like to withdraw that one then.
What's that?
I think we would prefer to withdraw that one then.
Solve that problem. All right.
And I would make a motion to approve HPCA 1800117, items 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 10, with the staff specific findings by the staff, and I don't think there were any. Sure, there weren't any. And including item 9, with just the specific finding that the proposed fixture is not visible from the public right away.
Okay.
I'll second.
All right. Moved by Joe Meacham and seconded by Klaus Ryman Phillip. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, those items are approved. And what do we do about the withdrawn?
We'll just record that.
Okay. So no vote or anything?
File.
Okay. Great, thank you. All right. Well, that concludes our cases. On to other business.
We have, sorry? We have a special exception, for a recommendation for a special exception, and we also have a presentation. BOA 14516 at 620 Northwest 21st Street, Mesta Park, Ward 6, consideration and possible action to provide a recommendation to the Board of Adjustment regarding an application for a special exception to allow multifamily residential development. The Commission reviewed and recommended approval of this back in 2014. This is for the rehabilitation and conversion of the former Sunbeam Children's Home into apartments. Because of various aspects of permitting and the way special exceptions work, it has expired. So they've come to request that another recommendation on the special exception for essentially the same thing, although this time it is limited to just the former children's home. Formerly, the special exception, I think, covered several other properties on the block.
Okay, the applicant is present.
Oh, one other note is that we've already approved a certificate of appropriateness for much of the exterior work at the property, and any additional exterior work would still come to the Commission for review.
Okay. All right.
Marva Ellard, 1521 North Chartel Avenue. Would you...
Representing Midtown Builders?
Of course.
Okay.
Would you like a little update? We purchased all of Sunbeam Family Services property in Mesta Park on December 30th of 2014, which included this building, the lot to the west, the building that we call the Ark, the lot to the east of it, and 3 houses on 20th Street that back up to this that had been built as group homes probably in the late 60s or early 70s. And to date, we've redone the Ark, and it's completely leased, which is I think it looks like a giant Pizza Hut building, but you all probably know which one it is. That one? There it is right there.
There it is.
And we have refurbished, rebuilt 2 of the group homes and sold them as single family to owner occupants, and are on the 3rd one, which is supposed to close the end of this month, and the average selling price on each of them is over $600,000. And so I think we're going to get great neighbors. We sold the lot to the west to a retired veterinarian and his wife, who's a retired school teacher from Veneta. And if you all have driven by, they're building a large bungalow that you all approved on that site and plan to occupy it this fall. So with the exception of the vacant lot on the east side of the Ark, now we're in the middle of this building. And so when we bought it, the Urban Renewal Authority was agreeable to putting some money in this project, and in return for that, we agreed to have the majority of the apartments be moderate income qualified apartments for 6 years. And so that is still the deal. And the reason we agreed on 6 years is because the length of time that tax credits run is 5 years. And so we tried to sync those up as well as we could. And so there's 13 apartments in the building, and we're roofing today, have been for the last few days. We're getting ready for exterior paint, and all the demolition inside has been done. And like Katie said, when we were trying to finalize building permits, we figured out that this had expired. And so here we are. So I'm happy to answer any questions that anybody has.
Thanks for the summary. Good to know. Good progress.
You did. I failed to mention you did have comments from the Mesta Park Neighborhood Association at your seats.
Oh, did see that.
I'd like to comment on that just briefly.
What do I do with it?
I got this, not that Katie kept it from me, but I talked to Katie several times. Anybody commented, anybody called, do we need to talk to anybody? and I got this letter as soon as she got it, but I got it about 1 o'clock today. And so it's kind of hard to make contact with the neighborhood and try to talk about things when you get things at the 11th hour. And basically, the letter says some of the things that they talked about 4 years ago, and I will tell you that most of those are not accurate. We have to have a certain number of parking spaces to get a building permit. We've met that. We have no parking on the south side of 21st. It's been that way for a long time. We have not asked for that to change. I said we wouldn't ask for that to change, and we haven't. And so we can park our people. Some of the other comments to me, but talk about us making it condos instead. Well, if you use tax credits, and I think we want to encourage people to use tax credits on historic projects, it gives you more money to spend on them to make them better. If you use tax credits, you can't sell something for at least 5 years after the project is occupied. So those things don't wash. You can't do tax credits and do condos because you lose the condos.
Yep.
You lose the tax credits. And so I think we're doing exactly what we said we were going to do when we started this project. We're really excited about it. I think it's a really good project for the neighborhood. It returns it to a residential use with much less traffic than it had when Sunbeam was there. And I love Sunbeam. I think they're a fabulous organization, but they were just packed into those buildings. And so there's a lot less people there now than there used to be. And so I am very excited to finish this project, and we just need to get through this step so we can get to work.
One question I saw in the neighborhood comment was, and I don't remember, it's been a long time, originally it was proposed to be senior housing?
No, there was never a senior restriction on the money from urban renewal. It's income related, but it's not necessarily senior. I would like to encourage seniors to apply to live there, but it's not restricted to senior, because we talked about possibly a school teacher and a child, or a single mom and a child, or someone could qualify to live there, but it was never just totally senior.
Just discussed as a possibility? Okay.
So Marva, what's the AMI restriction?
I met with, well, Chris came out, and another man with Chris Varga came out, and so I think it's 80%.
Okay.
But they're going to, I haven't had my class yet on how to do it.
Your public housing here, what's AMI?
Yeah, so I think that's the most exciting thing about this project, as it's providing quality, affordable housing to people that make perhaps 80% of the area median income or less.
Okay.
And so for a household of one, that's about $39,000 adjusted gross. And it's hard to find quality, affordable housing in any neighborhood downtown, near downtown.
And it could be senior housing.
Right. Seniors, like she said, single parents.
I think that'd be great.
Someone in college. So, yeah, I really appreciate that.
Okay.
Marv, are they all two-bedroom or some?
No, there are 1, 2, 3, I think there's 4 two-bedrooms,
And
and the rest
are
are ones.
And how does the parking match in there? I know you said you had plenty.
Well, is Ken still here? He probably knows more than I do about parking.
Just curious how that came on. We talked about that before.
No, they told me I got to do it again. I learned this at the last commission meeting.
You might use your you might use your pseudonym this time.
I don't have any.
I've just pointed out to me, is anybody want to speak before or against this? Okay, we thought that might be you. So when you get finished, we'll ask her to.
So, parking you're required for this type of housing, if I remember correctly, is, I did this over a year ago. It's less than 2 per unit.
Less than?
Yeah. I think the two-bedroom units is 1.5, and I think that, hold it, I think I'm saying that wrong. There's adequate parking. I think there's close to 30 to 40 parking spots behind the 2 buildings.
So that accommodates the ARC and the apartments?
Yes, it does. Well, you have to also understand that the ARC also owns the parking that is behind the lot that is east of it.
Right.
So there's more than adequate parking using a couple of offsets that are allowed by the municipal code.
Seems to be nice if the apartments had reserved parking, because the ARC could vary daily as far as business.
And this is something where I can speak from experience. I live a block away from here in one of the older apartment buildings. I live at 500 Northwest 21st Street. You were saying about AMI. I qualify for that. I pay $650 a month in rent for a one-bedroom apartment. I live in a very nice apartment in a very nice neighborhood. I'm an architect. So, you know, I agree with what Neela was saying, that affordable housing, it's hard to come by. And it's a market that you can chase for a couple months if you're not very careful.
So the parking was all presented and meets the
For the building
municipal code?
for the building permit. And,
Yeah, so, okay.
Ken made reference to offsets, and some of those offsets are bike racks and extra landscaping and other things that we think that our people will really enjoy, so that's a trade-off. I mean, we have, if you all have driven by there in the evening, I think the trade-off between the office and the apartments will work, although we have dedicated spaces to meet code, because there's hardly anybody at the ARC at night. And so, and on the weekends, except Catherine works every Saturday, right?
Well, she works through the night sometimes.
Yeah, she did that this week. And so,
Also, the parking that is there, there's no change to the parking. It's the parking already exists. So.
Well, the use is changing some, but you've got all that addressed, so.
yeah, we
But
have.
would you like to speak, ma'am?
Good afternoon, Commissioners. My name is Sherry Helsel, and I live at 609 Northwest 21st, across the street from the ARC and the Sunbeam residences. I would like to kind of address some of the things that Ms. Eller said were false first. There was an article by Steve Lackmeyer in the newspaper back in 2014, and I have a copy of that article if you'd like to see it, where she did state that they were going to be senior housing. And that was one of the reasons that the neighborhood association got behind it, was because there is not enough senior housing. And you're right, there's not enough affordable housing, and I'm all for it. I work for Central Oklahoma Habitat for Humanity. I mean, I'm passing out brochures from my car. We are all for affordable housing. That is not the issue. The issue is, first of all, that in talking about Sunbeam as a residential property, in actuality, it was a dormitory or an orphanage. So originally, the Sunbeam Center was not built for somebody to live in. As far as individual residents, it was built as a community service project. If anybody has looked at the Sunbeam's website online, and they give the history of that building, it was originally started by some nice ladies trying to find some housing for some orphans. And I think that's a wonderful thing. But when you talk of it in terms of being historically correct because it was previously residential, it was not residential in the sense that it's becoming residential now. And in terms of as far as what you can and can't do because of the tax credits and the guidelines that they have to meet, they did not have to use those funds to build the property. if they would have come with their own money, they wouldn't have to fall within those guidelines. So it's a little difficult for me to accept that the rest of the block and the neighborhood is being subjected to rules that are put in place just so somebody can get this project done. Now, as far as it being affordable, that's very well too. The problem is that it's only required to be affordable for 6 years. What happens at the end of the 6 years? Are we going to have teachers and single moms with kids? Or when they can't fill up, and like I have spoken with you all before, you know, I did residential property management for 15 years. And I know what happens to properties as they age. And then we now have the added issue of the home sharing in the neighborhoods that the city has just put in place. There's very little regulatory information about that. Right now, it's just an ordinance. So, in theory, I could wind up living across the street from a hotel. I'm all for saving the buildings, and I think that there are some good things that can be done with them, but I don't think that it's fair to the neighborhood, the people who live on that street, and the people who live in the neighborhood in general, to put that number of people in there for the potential commerce versus community. Like I said, I did residential for a long time. Residential lease is transient in nature. So at what point do you get any kind of buy-in or contribution from the people who live there? You have several units that are occupied by people who are on their way to somewhere else. They don't care about the neighborhood. They don't care about the property. And I know that Ms. Ellard runs a very nice property. I've seen the Seaver, and it's lovely, but it's self-contained for the most part. And it lets traffic out onto a main thoroughfare versus in and out on a street that is already packed daily because we're 3 doors down from Wilson Elementary. We won't just have vehicles coming and going. There'll be moving trucks, delivery trucks, those kinds of things that's going to increase as those fill up. I think that I could be definitely more on board with it if it was going to be less units. Maybe you can't do 4 condos. I understand that. But I think that there are some things that got it passed before that are really not necessarily true when you talk in terms of residential.
Okay. All right. Well,
thank you.
Thank you very much. We're all concerned about the home sharing ordinance.
And just as a little added side note, there's also an article in the paper from February of this month that we have overbuilt apartments.
Okay, thank you. Does anybody have more comments or questions? We'll pass around an article.
It's 13 apartments. It's not 1,300 apartments. And it's a 16,000 square foot building. You know, we've tried to make different apartments of different sizes so different people can afford to live there. And like we said, 7 of them are income restricted. I don't think we're going to have, yes, we'll have moving trucks. My people at the Seaver stay forever. You know, I don't expect, our average tenant at the Seaver stays for 4 years. A lot of homeowners don't own homes for 4 years. So I don't expect that we're going to have a huge transient population. I'm annoyed, and I'm sorry that if I sound a little agitated, but I am agitated because we've spent a lot of money and a lot of effort to turn this block back into a residential block that contributes to Mesta Park. and this building is no different. But I'm happy to answer any questions or concerns that you all have.
I do feel like you've taken pains to have a similar use than what it was before, and actually it seems like having the residences that you propose will be less intensive use anyways than a dormitory would have been. And I think it's always positive for a neighborhood to have active buildings and to have empty buildings, and if requirements change for Sunbeam or different organizations, and it requires that they're sold and repurposed, I think that has a net positive effect for the surrounding community.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
I will note that it just occurred to me that the staff recommendation is rather brief. So whatever the recommendation is to Board of Adjustment, if you want to support that with some additional findings, that would be appropriate. Sorry, I didn't provide any suggestions for that.
We can't require it with the, I think with structured, but I also agree it would be great if this was more senior oriented, and there isn't very much, and this would be a great location, no maintenance, and just.
We do plan on trying to encourage seniors to apply, but we do want some vitality in the building too. I mean, we're a half a block from a 300-student elementary school, so I think it would be great if somebody wanted to live there with a child and be able to live in a neighborhood that they might not be able to afford to live in otherwise. But no, I mean, when we do want seniors, but we do want a variety.
Mix would be good too. I agree with that. Okay. Good points on all sides, but would anybody like to make a motion?
Yeah, I'm prepared to make a motion to recommend approval to the Board of Adjustment for the special exception request regarding BOA 14516. I'm not sure how to word this, but with special finding that the project has been going on for 4 years and is well toward completion or close to it. A lot of money's been invested, and I think the apartments, the residence density is appropriate and will actually enhance housing for downtown, which we know is insufficient for moderate income people.
Okay.
Is there something else anybody else wants to add? That's fine.
Good point. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Moved by Suzanne Broadbent and second by Klaus Ryman Phillip. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, it's approved. Thank you. Thank you. And last but not least,
Okay.
8.
We have 600 Northwest 16th Street, Heritage Hills, and it should say, it's actually Mesta Park. Ward 6, pre-application review for a new construction proposal by Gardner Architects for Andy Burnett. You all will recall we reviewed a lot split at this property several months ago, and the applicant asked if they could get some input from the commission prior to submitting a full application for new construction, addressing kind of the unique circumstances of the layout of the lot and of the proposed property.
Did we recommend the lot split? I can't remember.
Yes, we approved it.
I hope so.
Excuse me?
I said, I hope you did.
Can we take it back?
Yeah.
All right. You must be the applicant.
Oh, it's Jeremy Gardner, Gardner Architects, 323 Northwest 9th Street. We have got a tiny model, so we may just kind of pass it around so you can kind of see.
I haven't seen model in a long time.
What we wanted to do today was a little bit of a sound check on a couple of things before we kind of bring it before the formal presentation. I think just in our conversations with Katie and with the owner, we want to be extremely mindful of what we come back with, or not come back with, but put here, since there hasn't been a residence on this particular intersection or corner lot since the neighborhood was built. So I think the two things that we wanted to touch on today were massing and then also a little bit of a unique circumstance with this particular lot. The massing, we'll get into, in the formal submission, all the, into the weeds with all of the proportions and of the massing as well as the fenestration. But what we wanted to test with you guys is the general massing, taking the cues from context. We're a little bit of in between some really large homes that are on the south side of the alley, but also some moderately scaled houses that are on the on the north side of 16th, the south of the alley towards 15th. Yeah, careful, that's not really glued in yet. But
almost destroyed your model.
So the white model is the existing home that is what is the address? Do you remember? 610 Northwest 16. The gray is what we're proposing. And so the general massing of the home kind of takes its cues from the direct adjacent 610 and then the other property due west of that one. The alignments with the roofs, the eaves, the porches, those kinds of things we're being very mindful of. And then also the other thing that, as a result of stoops, massing, alignments, things like that, that really perches that house really far out of the ground once you head west on 16th Street, which provides a unique opportunity or a unique circumstance where we could introduce a tuck-under garage off of Dewey. And so, anyway, you can kind of see that in that model. But we're trying to tuck that under, be not obtrusive, and be mindful of how the materials that we use to clad that garage door. And what else? Do we need to highlight? We really just want to kind of open up for questions and concerns that you guys may have regarding this general proposal.
Thanks for bringing the model. It's a lot easier to read than the renderings. The white kind of blends together. It's hard to tell the massing, but the model helps a lot.
So you can see the main body of the house, the massing is really akin to the direct adjacent context, but then also the idea of the single-story kind of scales it down to Dewey as well as the single-story home that's directly east of the house on the opposite corner. So the grade change, there's, I don't know, about 10 feet of grade change, maybe a little bit more from Dewey up to what would be the front walk for this particular home.
So the main thing is the garage.
The main thing is the garage.
Yeah. There is space in the back with that weird lot split. There's a area there could be a garage that would be lined up with the existing, would be right next to the one that's there right now.
Sure. Well, that's a 5-car garage and the servants' quarters.
Right. So that would be kind of odd.
Yeah.
It's got that drive in there. I remember that now. Is that drive on?
That is not a drive. That is a sidewalk, steps that get you into that backyard.
Okay, yeah, I remember that landscape feature. Okay. It's all coming back now.
So the pool that you see in that aerial photograph
Kind of limits the area.
remains. So that's kind of what the house is also kind of responding to that existing condition.
I think there's some unique circumstance there with the pool. There's not enough space for a garage. The garage would be hidden, about as unobtrusive as it could be. So,
Well, a lot of those garages on Dewey Dewey and Walker and all are underneath. I mean, they may not be earth covered, but they do come in right off the street, as I recall.
this one's under the house.
Okay, but I mean the entrance from the
Right.
from the street.
There's actually a historic house on 19th, to Tudor, and you drive around to the back and you go under the house.
Sorry, I had to step out, so you may have already asked this question, or...
You want to start over?
No, I do not want to start over. The only thought I had was with the garage from the front elevation, Can you step it back a
Could you
little more?
pass the model
Sure,
back?
yeah, I mean,
They have a model.
push the
Oh,
actual-
okay.
Going it back?
It really helps a lot. Everything blends in on that one.
And we've had some conversations about how to push that door actually further back.
There you go.
So that-
So that's about as unobtrusive as a garage door. Yeah.
Staff were looking at this, and we were contemplating whether you'll actually be able to keep the pool structurally once you dig in that garage, or if you're going to end up having to rebuild the pool anyway. Just, if you've had any thoughts about that.
The garage in the back or the garage in this location?
The garage in the location shown. If once you start, it's fairly close to the existing pool, and
It's about 12 or 13 feet, is that right? So just in talking to structural engineer and basement contractors, they felt like that was the distance that we needed to stay away from the structure of the pool to not get
Should be
into that.
able to do it with a little care.
Yeah,
Yeah.
camera.
Huh. Okay, you want us to, those are our comments. We're not
I have, would
looking
like to ask
approve it.
about page 6 of 7. Could you talk about a little bit of the mass of glass overlooking the pool?
The
Glass on that.
the large windows that look out over the pool on the south elevation? Yeah, I think that's still really what we'll continue to develop, is that fenestration design vocabulary. We'd like to open it up as much as we can to be able to appreciate that view to the primary living spaces, are in that inside corner. So we've got the family room and the kitchen, living, dining that open up onto that. So what is the objection to that much glass?
It just, in my, I'm not an architect, I'd love to hear what anybody else says. It seemed like there would be more wood involved with the windows or wall space for a historic home.
Sure.
Or replication of one, to me.
Right. Well, I think what we
More
understand our
solid,
charge to be is to...
Not necessarily solid, but more wood in the windows or something like that. Do you all have a...
Less glass.
Pardon?
Less of a continuous glass wall, yeah.
It seems a little contemporary. Beautiful.
I mean, it isn't new construction.
Right. I think not trying to emulate a historic architecture, but still be mindful of proportions.
Because of the fact that it's raised as you go along the street, Dewey, you're not going to see into the backyard, really. It's raised 10 feet. So you're not, I agree with you, but you're not going to see it very well either. It's not like it's right on the street. So.
And the fact that it's at the rear elevation, and again, not seen from the right-of-way, I think we would give them more leeway.
I don't agree, but
For the
I'm
fenestration
just happy to hear
pattern.
your thoughts.
Yeah.
Well, George's not going to vote for it, so.
Or would.
My comment was on your Dewey facade, just having the one window.
Sure. Yeah, I think we're still working out what,
I
from
mean,
a
that,
planning
it's
perspective.
particularly, and it's kind of not
mass.
a good picture you handed in because it looks so big and white with
looks-
this
yeah, there's
one window, which,
No shadow or shade.
right, so it's not showing what,
Really early in the morning, that east light hitting that.
It's going to blind everybody.
any direction on exterior finishes as far as what what would be your main finish that you're looking at?
I think we're still trying to figure that out. I think we just get past the swirl and we'll bring all those details.
Okay.
There was a wonderful, the best one I've ever seen in Heritage Hills on 19th Street in Heritage Hills, where they added on a family room kind of in the back of the home, went to a pool, and the juxtaposition of wood and glass, it had the openness that I think you want, but it kept the historical integrity, which I think we should have, in my opinion.
Sure.
That's all
Thank
I'm
you.
saying.
We'll see when the prices come back, or maybe smaller windows.
So it seems like you've taken pains to kind of match the proportions and massing of the neighborhood. So I think that seems successful, especially I think the model does a good job of kind of depicting that. As far as the garage, I think, a lot of the houses kind of sit up higher in Heritage Hills, and I think that does give the unique opportunity to have kind of the tuck-in garage. So I think I kind of echo some of the other commissioners on that. I agree, Mary Jo. I had that same thought when I looked at that one elevation. It did seem like large, but I understand you're still working on fenestration, materiality, all that kind of stuff. So I think it's a good initial effort.
Okay. No.
Well, I'd just like to, just a couple of things. I agree with George, more wood would be more pleasing to my eye at least. When this came before the commission a month or two ago, of course, the neighbors were not happy. And part of the point that they were making was that this area had been pretty open. And I voted against you, by the way. I don't probably have to remind you of that. You'll probably remember me. But the reason I did mainly was because I felt like it could be handled by deed and without, and that I thought you hadn't done your homework with the neighborhood. I think you're going to get a lot of pushback again, and speaking for myself, I much prefer that those fights not be adjudicated in front of the commission. I don't think that's a good place, and it's generally not an outcome that works very well for anybody. So we've talked about the windows issue, which I see as a real problem with the massing, and the neighborhood probably wasn't notified of your presentation today. That's probably not required. I understand that.
They actually were. It was on the agenda, and we did send public notice as a courtesy, even though we aren't required to.
Okay, good.
We did not get any comments from Heritage Hills on any of the applications
Yeah.
this month.
Okay. That's true.
And I actually spent a couple of hours 2 weeks ago sitting on their back patio, all of this stuff.
Okay.
Went over everything. We actually did some different height options and laid out what we thought this would look like. And we went through the process of how we got there. And they both said that they would not oppose at all and appreciate it coming. So that's just one example that if there was any other ones, then we'll be more than sure not adjudicated here like we did last time. That was not our intent last time, but that happened.
Good. Okay. Thanks.
Well, and just kind of as a follow-up to that, looking at your rendering, you've got kind of the massing appropriate to the neighborhood. I think as we've all kind of said, now what comes next is the fabric. Given the pictures that we have, it's just all very stark white and big.
Yeah.
So what happens next, what becomes of interest to the commission is, what is the fabric? Is it wood? How much of it is glass? Is there brick involved? How does this incorporate? You're kind of in a unique area in that there's a couple of different styles that you can pull from, but pulling from too many styles then means you have something that doesn't fit.
Right.
Well,
I'm sure
I would like to respond to that before, just to suggest to my fellow commissioners that you take a very careful look at the Secretary of Interior's guidelines for new construction, because what we do here is not always exactly following those guidelines. In my opinion, when we're designing things, we should be allowing architects or designers to design in their own period and have it be compatible, not necessarily match, which we're more inclined to do on this commission. So I'm just saying that if you read those guidelines, I think that we can go both directions. We could very well have something that does not have very many small characteristics or details that were of the neighborhood, but the massing, I think, is what they brought as the most important thing. So it's a very difficult thing, but how I always look at it is when you walk down the street, I want to know in a historic district what is historic and what is not. And I don't want myself or the public to be confused and say, oh, that looks like, they've taken care of that so well. It looks like it's brand new, but they think it was built in 1920 or something. So that's how I look at it is, I just got back from Santa Fe and the same thing. What's old, what's new? So really it depreciates the historic when you can't tell the new from the old in some regards. That's just my thought on this particular one, because I have a feeling that they have some big ideas, not that they would be overwhelming or anything, but they have maybe some ideas that are different than what we've approved recently.
We'd like to get your feedback on it. What you see here is obviously reflected as stucco, and we want the painted white brick. And obviously the windows, you've seen what we would prefer to do, but there may be some sort of combination there or compromise. But
I think it's...
Any nice ideas about...
Oh, Andy, could you just go up to the microphone, please? We're supposed to get everything on recording.
I'm done talking. I'll stop talking.
You got to repeat all that. Go.
What you see here is stucco. They started out with white brick, and we were going back and forth on that. And then we went for a little bit more of a smoother texture with the stucco. I'd really liked some of the stucco houses that were kind of scattered around here, and so we provided that in here. And that was, I think, for us, it would be valuable to get some of that feedback, and I appreciated her comments on that. That's what we were sort of understanding this process to be, was to not replicate necessarily, but to pay respect to and incorporate within, was the way that we had kind of been our overarching principle of working through the past couple of months.
Okay.
I believe the guidelines for painted brick are different than stucco, correct?
New?
That's different. I don't
With
know
regard
that
to
we-
new or not? I don't know if we've
I
ever
actually
had
don't think that our guidelines for new construction address
painted brick.
That you're thinking of painting existing brick.
We have guidelines
no,
for
that other one.
existing masonry, yeah. So I think
Right.
that's something where we would just look at, are there examples of that kind of in the area? Do we feel like that's going to be compatible with the surrounding character from a staff perspective? Or if it was an area where we don't have any other painted brick, everything else is red brick, this is going to...
What about stucco? Let's stay with stucco for a second. What do you think about if we were coming up and we were showing you these things and we were stucco?
I think we have to see the final
Sure.
design. We can't get that level, really.
I think it would be the same analysis of, are there other stucco homes around? Is that something that seems appropriate to the district and to the surrounding area?
Is it compatible? That's kind of the thing, as Joe said. So,
I think the look of both homes, when we look at it like that, is wonderful. I like it, to me, very tasteful.
Thank you.
okay.
So approved?
Is there enough comments?
Go for it.
You'll get a different story when you come. So you know that, so.
I lived across the street at 605 for 7 years looking at this empty lot, so I'm glad that somebody's doing something.
Okay.
All right.
Good. Looks good.
Thanks for your time.
I know you'll do a good job.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. No action on that one. On to administrative approvals.
Staff is always happy to answer questions if you have any about administrative approvals. A couple of withdrawals, things that ran out of time, and one closure, similar. We had at City Council, we had our National Register nomination for the slaughter home that we reviewed recently, went forward. And the historic landmark designation for Freedom Center was introduced at council yesterday and scheduled for a final hearing on, I believe, August 28th. So we'll keep everybody in the loop on that.
You skipped over Airbnb.
Airbnb has not actually gone to council yet.
Okay.
They're trying to pin down the dates for introduction and final hearing on that, but it has not yet been, it hasn't gone and it hasn't even been scheduled. So when we know a date, we'll pass that along.
When was the public notified of it not happening yesterday?
I don't know that they would have been notified that it wasn't.
Was going to happen?
It just notice never would have been sent because it hasn't been scheduled.
Has there been any change?
I thought it was scheduled for
Other
yesterday.
than this,
Has there been any changes based on some of the HP districts?
and we probably should have said is anticipated to be heard or something less official sounding than scheduled, because that turned out to be inaccurate. It was moving the same path as the Freedom Center, so I thought it would.
Went with it.
Not that they're related, but they were on the same timetable,
Yeah.
so we thought it would be the same day, but
It never changed.
Have there been
no,
any changes?
nothing's been revised, I don't think.
No changes
No.
so far?
No.
Okay.
Nothing
All right.
at Board of Adjustment. Again, Airbnb was heard by Planning Commission on July 12th, at the same time as the Freedom Center. On Airbnb, Planning Commission voted to forward it to City Council without a recommendation. there was a motion to recommend approval, and that motion failed. And so they forwarded it on with no recommendation.
What does that mean?
So the city council could make a determination without a recommendation?
Yep.
Huh. Interesting. Okay.
Planning
Ad hoc
Commission did
committee?
recommend approval of the Freedom Center. So that's all I have on that.
Ad hoc committee? Okay. Anything from municipal councilor's office? Okay. The next regularly scheduled meeting for the Historic Preservation Commission is September 5th, 2018, at 2 p.m. at the Municipal Building. Right here, new applications for this meeting were received July 31st, 2018, yesterday. New information on projects continued from today's meeting to the upcoming meeting must be submitted to staff by 4 p.m. Tuesday, August 7th, 2018. The next regularly scheduled workshop for the Historic Preservation Commission is Wednesday, September 12th, from 11:30 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. at 420 West Main, Suite 900. Any items from commissioners?
I will
The only
just
one-
chime in. We should have had a resolution on here,
Yes.
but this is Heather's last meeting.
Yes.
She thought her last meeting was going to be months ago, and City Council had yet to appoint someone to take her spot. So she has very generously continued to serve, but has to go back to school now and actually teach class. So we'll have an actual resolution for you all, and we'll send it on to you next month.
Thank you for your
But,
service.
Yes, Heather's
Great
been
to
serving
work
for
with.
over 9 years, because she
9
filled someone
years.
else's spot when she started. So she finished their term and has been going since then.
So every first Wednesday in the afternoon, you're going to go, I'm supposed to be somewhere.
Well, that was kind of part of the issue, is that every Wednesday for this entire semester at 2 o'clock, I'm teaching Oklahoma history.
Oh.
So
So she'll be thinking of
I
this.
will be thinking.
Okay.
But it has been an honor to be here, and I've learned a lot, and it's hard to let go of routine, but it's good. So thank you all for fun times.
Well, thank you. Okay, no citizens left, so if there being no further business, we are adjourned. Thank you.